What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Luttie's Look Back. My name is Nick Luttrell. It is week 4 of our Arkansas football preview. Today, I'll preview the defensive side of the ball for the Razorbacks, breaking down each position group and what you guys can expect in year 3 under defensive coordinator Travis Williams. We'll also touch on the special teams for Arkansas as well, but that's a little bit later in our show. Let's first start with our headlines of the week. It wasn't a lot from this past week, but the biggest thing was Arkansas football, and as I mentioned, we'll get to the defense of everything with it later. But what is in the here and now is Arkansas just had their second and final scrimmage before their first game next Saturday, folks. It is next Saturday when football season starts for the Razorbacks against Alabama A&M. This scrimmage this past weekend, it was a closed-door scrimmage, so we didn't really get a lot out of it. Saying that, I do have a few takeaways, but first let's hear from head coach Sam Pittman and what stood out to him after Saturday morning's scrimmage.
We're learning a little bit more about our football team, and just because somebody was this way last year, good or bad, doesn't make him the same player. He can either be better or he can be worse. And so we're learning those things about our team a little bit more and in tough situations. And I feel really good about the team. I feel great about our punting, our kicking, our returners. It's really good to have Shanks back. I think our special teams are going to add really a lot of value to us. So we're learning all that about our football team, but luckily we're learning in a good way how we feel about our team.
All right, so there was the takeaways from Sam Pittman after their second and final scrimmage. You heard him mention it there, a lot of offensive stuff, a lot of offensive highlights. And if you would go back and watch the full 25-minute press conference for this weekend's scrimmage that just happened this past weekend, plus the weekend before that, it really seemed like offense has been kind of taking the cake and showing the defense up in these scrimmages and practices, which makes sense because the Arkansas offense should be better than the Arkansas defense this season. But it's always that hard thing when the offense does really well against defense. Well, does that show you that the Arkansas offense is just going to be really good this season? And the Arkansas, or does it show you that the Arkansas defense is just really bad and the Arkansas offense is just kind of getting lucky? So it's always hard with these practices, with these scrimmages, especially when no one is able to watch the scrimmage. We see some of the stats, some of the big scoring plays, but we don't see the game. We don't see the scrimmages happen. We get 20 minutes of practice that we get to watch on some of the days, and I've only been to one of those practices. We'll be able to see footage from other parts of it, but when it comes to scrimmage time, they keep that it's really a closed-door scrimmage. I mean, they've only posted a couple clips on social media, only one highlight on social media of what happened in that scrimmage. So really, it's hard to have takeaways for us as the media, just the way it is these days. But Sam Pittman giving the takeaways there. It seems like the offense is progressing. Defense, maybe not so much. But maybe Pittman's just a little bit tougher on the defense. Or maybe, it's always hard to tell because defense doesn't have as many highlight plays. They're not going to have the touchdown numbers and the statistics and the highlights that you're going to see on a social media account or the highlights that we show you on a news station. That's just the reality of it. But the takeaways with the offense and the stats that we did get is a couple players. Mike Washington Jr., I feel like we talk about him every show. He's talked about after every Arkansas football practice. This guy just continues to be elevated to his potential, to what he could be for Arkansas this season. I mean, this is a guy who I guess was expected to be a second string, mid-level excitement running back out of the transfer portal from, I think, New Mexico State or New Mexico. I can't remember which one it is. Somewhere up that direction is where he transferred from. And he played good last year for that team, but not great. And now he's coming here to be with the Razorbacks. And I think many people at the beginning thought he would be that second string guy. Now he's that guy. He's the first string. Braylon Russell's the second string. That's really what it seems like. It's more that he's creating more of a gap there between Russell and between himself is Mike Washington Jr. And that starts with his big plays. I mean, he had it in the first scrimmage 10 days ago. He had it in this scrimmage a few days ago, a 91-yard touchdown run. So that was encouraging to see from the offensive side. Again, defense, what are we doing? Why are we giving up a big play? Two ways to look at it, right? I'm gonna be an optimist and look at it with some positivity. Good offensively, Mike Washington Jr., a huge run there. another good offensively, and this is the one highlight that Arkansas posted. Taylon Green, touchdown pass, 53 yards long to Monty Harrison. Green to Harrison. Harrison was playing first team reps for this Arkansas football team, for this Arkansas offense. This guy is 30 years old. He's a former MLB outfielder. Second year with the Razorbacks. Didn't get the playing time at all last year, hardly at all. Now he comes into this year, and it looks like he's going to take that step up. And I know those of you who watched last week's show, I talked with John Neighbors, and he wasn't super excited to hear any talk about Monty Harrison because he's been talked about a lot, but we haven't seen him play. We haven't seen him make the plays in actual games. We've just wanted to talk about him because he is a talking point, because he is 30 years old and he's playing college football. That's something to talk about. But I think we're moving into the phase where he's actually going to be playing for this Arkansas team because he's taking first-team reps, and as long as this dude stays healthy and stays in shape, it's going to be a really cool story to have him catch some touchdowns for this Arkansas team this upcoming season, and he did it in this scrimmage. So those are some of the offensive highlights, some of the takeaways from the Arkansas football scrimmage they had from this past weekend. We'll talk a little bit more about Razorbacks. The second and final kind of headline that we have is for Arkansas Pine Bluff, UAPB. It is the third year for head coach Alonzo Hampton. It's been kind of steady increases, 2 wins his first year in 2023, 1 conference win. The next year, last year, 3 total wins, 2 conference wins. And I think this year they're just hoping to make that step up. They're hoping to be one of those teams that can take that small step to be a better team than they were the year before. But they also have a challenge in their way in the new era of college football.
You don't want your best players to leave, but we're just in that era right now where everybody, if they play well, they're going to try to go to the next best school, and you're not even mad at them. When they leave, you try to replace them with somebody better.
UAPB lost a lot from a 2024 team that won just 3 games. Gone is their starting quarterback, star receiver, and linebacker. Now, though, head coach Alonzo Hampton's got a new squad, a team that, despite all the new players, might actually be improved.
I think we'll have a better chance to be better than we were last year. And obviously, stat-wise, we weren't very good, but at times we made some good plays. We played good for a half, but I think this year our motto has been finish. And so we went out and got some guys that are hungry, and they've shown flashes. So we're excited about where we're at evaluating those guys.
Yet as much excitement as there is for the new guys, it's returner B.J. Curry that's leading a running back room Coach Hampton says will be the best it's been during his time in Pine Bluff.
B.J. is a kid from Arkansas, man. He always wanted to be a recruit to state, and he's done a good job. But B.J., I tell you, man, we got 3 running backs that are really, really talented behind B.J. And I tell people this is the best running back group we've had, and you're going to see multiple guys tote the football. And I'm excited. Our offensive line is doing a really good job. We got some older guys back. So I think that's going to be a strength for us this year to be able to run the ball. And obviously, you know, what we do in the passing game is going to help us become a better football team.
And while many question marks still remain, such as who will start at quarterback, Hampton seems to like his group and is confident in a Golden Lions program that is still searching for its first winning season since 2019.
Well, hopefully they can be improved, right? You saw that with Coach Hampton. They had a lot of guys leave via transfer portal from last season, just like a lot of teams, just like the Razorbacks did, probably about the same amount, maybe more. I'm not exactly sure the exact number. We don't even have the official roster for this upcoming football season yet, so I'm still trying to get my hands on that, so trying to figure that whole thing out. But they lost a lot of guys, and that started, as I mentioned, with their starting quarterback, Mekhi Higgins, who was really good last year, and they had a really good offense behind Higgins, behind B.J. Curry, who is returning, behind Giovanni Gibson, who's now at Oklahoma. I think he might be a starting wide receiver at Oklahoma, which is impressive to make the jump from one of the worst conferences in college football, Division I level, to one of the best conferences in college football. That's the SWAC to the SEC. Giovanni Gibson has the opportunity to do that. So that'd be pretty cool to see that. That's last year. They lost those guys. It's full focus on this year. They've got a lot of new players. One of them is returning again, B.J. Curry, the running back. He's expected to take the reins as that go-to guy, I think, for this running back core. But Coach Hampton mentioned it there, and he said Curry would mention it, would tell me it as well. I didn't get a chance to speak with him, but that they have more guys than just B.J. Curry. So you want depth, especially at a position where you're going to score a lot of points, a star position where you're going to have a lot of highlights, and that's the running back position. So they have depth with B.J. Curry and a lot of other guys. The other thing that I mentioned that I didn't get to dive into in that story was the quarterback competition. Is the quarterback competition. Last year's backup, DJ Stevenson, I think might be the go-to guy, but you also got to look at Christian Peters, who could be competing for that quarterback spot. He's I think, Division II guy who cooked last year at the Division II level, and now he's with UAPB. So can he make that jump to the Division I level, granted the lowest-ish level of the Division I football in the SWAC? Can he make that jump and be a good quarterback for UAPB, be the level of Mekhi Higgins? I think they got some good wide receivers as well. Again, it's just going to be hard to tell because we have kind of limited access, still waiting on the roster to come out a little bit, all these things. But they got their first game of the season against Texas Tech in a little over a week. It's a Thursday night game next week. So we'll learn a lot about this team when it's not a Thursday night game. I think it's a Saturday. I think it's UCA that has a Thursday night game against Missouri. My apologies. But UAPB has their first game of the year against Texas Tech, a top 25 team. They're probably going to get smoked like they did against the Razorbacks, but hopefully it'll be a good learning opportunity. Hopefully we'll see a little bit out of some of those players that we've seen in practice, but we haven't learned a ton about quite yet. All right, that is UAPB. Let's move on to the bulk of our show, and that is our THV 11 Arkansas football season preview this week. This show, we're looking at the defensive depth chart. I'm going to touch on special teams a little bit, but let's go ahead and get into it. Let's start with the defensive line. From left to right on your screen, you see it here. Phillip Lee, Ian Giffard, Cam Ball, Quincy Rhodes. Some other guys that are going to play: Justice Boone, Danny Salili can be swapped in with Ian Giffard. David Oki, hopefully, is a guy that can get some reps. He has a lot of potential for this Arkansas team. Charlie Collins has potential to get in. He guy who played special teams a little bit last year. Ken Talley, the Michigan State transfer. So those are some of the names you're going to want to know that are going to be playing for this Arkansas defensive line unit this season. And let's talk about it. And when we talk about the defensive line, it's one guy in particular that is going to be leading the charge. Just like last year was with Landon Jackson, this year it is with Cam Ball. Slightly different position, slightly less of a potential with Cam Ball versus Landon Jackson. Landon Jackson, most people knew he was going to be a top 3 round draft pick. Kind of not no matter what you did last year, but he had a lot of potential last year, and he lived up to that potential in most ways. And now he's making a lot of money playing professional football. Cam Ball will also be playing NFL football very soon, and I do know that he will get drafted. I don't know if he has the skill level to the level of a Landon Jackson, but I think he's going to be really good for this Arkansas team. Hopefully he's the one that can also make that step. Another guy is Quincy Rhodes, a guy from right here, North Little Rock, a native, was a charging Wildcat. He's entering his junior year. He's been here for a few seasons, just like a couple of these guys have. He's a guy who also needs to take that step, fill the gap that Landon Jackson left. Hopefully it's a Quincy Rhodes who can do that, who's been in the system for a couple of years now. And if he's not the one to do it, I think I'm pretty confident in that Phillip Lee would be the guy to do it, kind of playing that left end of the defensive line unit. And something I should mention before we go on to these other position groups, I'm going to talk about 4 defensive linemen that are starters, 4 linebackers that are starters, 4 defensive backs, safeties, whatever, that are starters. Obviously, that adds up to too many players. That adds up to 12. So I'm just saying, at the most, they would play a 4 defensive line unit. They could play a 4-3-5. They could play a 3-3 or 4-3-5. Yeah, 4-3-4 probably, or a 3-3-5 like they did against Tennessee last year. They have different schemes that Travis Williams and Marcus Woodson can mix around to work. But at the most, they'll have 4 defensive linemen, so that's why you see kind of 4 main starters I have behind me. That doesn't mean they won't start 3 the first game of the season. That's very possible. But back to what I was saying, Phillip Lee is a guy who could be the best edge rusher that the Razorbacks have. He's a redshirt senior, 6'4", 240, transfer from Troy, was a 3-star. So can he make that leap to fill the role of Landon Jackson, or will it be Quincy Rhodes, or can both of them do that? I think there's potential with both those guys, not to the level of Landon Jackson. None of them will be as good as Cam Ball will, but I think there's potential with both of those guys. As far as defensive tackle goes, again, you got Cam Ball. You also got Ian Giffard, a big fella, a redshirt sophomore, 387 pounds. I think I read that he was over 400 pounds when he entered his freshman year. This is now his 3rd season in Fayetteville, and it's with all due respect, it's weird. It might be weird to call a defensive tackle slim, but he's slimmed up a little bit. He's at 387 now. He's lost some weight, and he's relatively quick for his size. And to be when you play nose guard, when you play that defensive tackle, you want to be a big guy. You want to have a big guy that you can use, that maybe if he's not the fastest guy in the world, that he's just tough for the offensive linemen to move, which Arkansas offensive linemen have said. Ian Giffard's a tough guy to move because he's 400 pounds. So you like that part of it, and you like that maybe he has the skill level to be a starter in the SEC. He played nearly every game last year, but can he make that jump to be a starter? Justice Boone is a transfer from Florida, 3-star recruit, 3-star transfer. A lot of hype around him in fall camp. He's a guy that could easily start. Played in a lot of games last year for Florida. Danny Salili, I can flip him around with Ian Giffard. Both of those guys could go at the defensive tackle spot. Those are some guys you can look out for that hopefully can sack opponent teams' quarterback this upcoming season. David Oakey is a transfer from Abilene Christian that has maybe the highest ceiling outside of Cam Ball to get drafted. But he's dealt with some injuries in spring ball. He's dealing with an injury right now. It's just like, can this guy like be to the level that people think he has the potential to be? Can David Oakey be that guy? And if he can, I think this is a good defensive line unit. And then kind of the bottom tier, you throw in Charlie Collins, played a little bit on special teams last year. You throw in Ken Talley, played a little bit at Michigan State last year, was a 3-star portal guy. I think he got a good defensive line unit, not a great one. If I had to give it a grade, my grade is a C+ for this defensive line unit. The issue with it is depth. Do they have the depth? If one of these guys gets injured, if you have an injury to Cam Ball, Justice Boone, and Danny Salili, one of those guys get injured, I'm worried about the depth that they have to compete in the SEC. So that's my worry with the defensive line for the Razorbacks. All right, that's D-line. Let's move on to the linebacker core for Arkansas. Left to right, we got Andrew Harris, Xavier Sori, Steven Dix, Bradley Shaw. Couple other guys to mention: Wyatt Simmons, Trent Whalen, Tavion Wallace, and Justin Logan. Obviously, the 2 guys in the middle are going to be the go-to guys: Xavier Sori, Steven Dix. Dix has really improved in the offseason. His teammates call him Swole, like because he's jacked. Steven Dix is really good. Xavier Sori, former 5-star recruit. You heard the whole thing last year. He was the go-to linebacker last year. It was huge when he announced he would be coming back for his senior season, his redshirt senior season, I guess, for the Razorbacks. That was a big deal because he's one of the best linebackers in the SEC, and to have him back is huge. Andrew Harris is a UCF transfer. Again, I don't know if Arkansas is going to start 4 linebackers. They could just start 3. They could put 2 in there at times. It kind of just depends on what scheme they want to run. Andrew Harris is a guy that apparently can hit you really hard, which is what you want out of linebackers, but that's what we've been hearing out of him in fall camp, is that guy can just hit. And so that's what you want to hear out of your see and hear out of your linebackers. He's a transfer from UCF, a 3-star, a guy who can hopefully make that leap from Central Florida to playing in the SEC, to making a statement for himself. So that's Andrew Harris. Xavier Sori is going to be a dude. Steven Dix, a returning starter. Him and Sori are those go-to guys that you're going to see a lot. That if you're at the games, if you're watching the games, you're going to hear their names a lot because they're going to be racking up tackles. Hopefully both of them can stay healthy. Another guy who may not always be a sophomore, but showed promise last year as a freshman, is Bradley Shaw. He's a sophomore this year, 6'1", 237. He's expected to kind of take that increased role this season. Maybe not be a starter, but start maybe a handful of games. He showed promise last year. Now, can he make that leap to be even better this year? So those are some of the big names you want to know. Wyatt Simmons is a guy who also could come in and play. He's the son of Paul Simmons. Those of you who don't know who that is, that's a coach of Harding University. They won the national championship just a few seasons ago. Wyatt Simmons is a good player entering, I think, his second or third year with the Razorbacks. Trent Whalen is a Southern Utah transfer. He actually is a spring portal addition, so this guy is still kind of new. He just has been practicing with the Razorbacks for just a few weeks, so we're still trying to figure out, is he a guy who can get playing time? But he's a 3-star recruit. He was at Southern Utah. Okay, Southern Utah, that's an FCS team. Then he transferred to Kent State, and then he, I guess, was at Kent State just for the spring, and then now he's with the Razorbacks. I don't know. It's weird how they do it these days. That's Trent Whalen. Tavion Wallace is a guy who has a ton of potential, 4-star linebacker, as is Justin Logan, also a 4-star. Both these guys freshmen. Logan was here last year. Wallace is a true freshman. This is his first year with Arkansas. So can he live up to the potential? Can he be the guy that people think he can be? He's a 4-star recruit. He chose Arkansas over LSU, a lot of other really good SEC teams. Can he make that jump? Maybe not this year, but can he develop? Can he provide depth for an Arkansas linebacker unit that can be really good? I think it's yes. When I'm looking at the linebackers, my grade for them is an A-. Now, don't get all excited and think that this Arkansas defense is going to be really good. I just don't know if they're going to be that, but I like where the linebacker unit is at, and I also like where the defensive backs, and that's my final one of the defensive units is the defensive backs. So let's go ahead and move on to that one for Arkansas, and that is a couple of them to note. Again, you see it on here. Some of the guys who are playing cornerback, some of them who are playing safety. There's a couple other positions. They'll move them around. Again, they may not have a starting lineup with these 5 guys that are starting, but if they did play 5 defensive backs, here's who they would be. From left to right on your screen, Selman Bridges, Selman Bridges, the cornerback. You see Kenai Walker and Julian Neal, some new guys. The 2 safeties, Miguel Mitchell and Larry Worth. Some other guys that will rotate in there, Jaheim Singletary, a former 5-star, has a lot of potential. Jordan Young, Keyshawn Davila, the #1 junior college defensive back from a season ago. Caleb Wooden, played at Auburn last year. Quintavious Scandrett, Akari Johnson, some other guys who might get playing time, might not. These guys you see on your screen, these faces that you see, hopefully they can be, as a unit, hopefully this unit can be better than they were a season ago, because that was Arkansas's biggest issue on defense, right? Because they had Landon Jackson, they had Cam Ball, they had Anton Junkaj, they had Xavier Story, they had Brad Spence, and the defensive backs, they had some of these guys. They had, I guess, the Metcalfs, and that was good. But really, they weren't that good last year with defensive back. And they had some good games, they had some great games, but then they had some games like the Ole Miss game where they gave up like 60 points or something crazy. So can this defensive backs group make that leap from where they were last year? Some of these guys who were returning from a season ago, can they make that step? And I know I'm repeating myself with a lot of these guys, but that is the question with a lot of these guys that are returning, or a lot of these guys that are transferring from smaller schools or from prominent schools, but they're trying to get more playing time. That's what has to be talked about with this Arkansas team, with this Arkansas defense, with the defensive backs. Selman Bridges is a guy who has a really high ceiling. He's going to have an increased role this season after playing his freshman year with the Razorbacks. Miguel Mitchell and Larry Worth, I'm confident in those 2 guys at safety. The biggest thing I'm confident with all of these guys on your screen you see here is, okay, the depth a little bit, but also the size. 6'2", 6'1", 6'4", 6'2", 6'2", 6'2", 6 foot, 6'1", 6'1", 6'3", and 5'11". Only one guy out of these guys that are going to be playing, that are going to be seeing playing time on the field this season, is under 6 foot. And that's pretty impressive for a defensive backs unit. Normally you're seeing an average of like 6 foot. Maybe you have a guy that's 6'2" and above. This year you got Larry Worth, who's 6'4". He had 5 starts last year. He's going to start every game this year if he's healthy. You got Kenai Walker coming from Oklahoma, who I'm pretty high on Kenai Walker. And it helps that he's coming from Oklahoma and that he started 9 games at OU last season. But I'm confident in him because he played at Oklahoma, because he's shown potential. Now, can he bring that over to Arkansas and play that way here and play better? Oklahoma's defense wasn't amazing last year, but he played at Oklahoma. Now he's playing at Arkansas. Another guy who didn't play at a prominent program in Fresno State, but was very highly recruited out of the transfer portal. Was actually the highest transfer portal prospect I think that Arkansas got as far as the defensive backs unit, maybe in the whole defense. He was a 4-star transfer portal pickup from Fresno State, and it's Julian Neal. And he only started 4 games last year for a Fresno State team that was relatively good. Can Julian Neal make that jump? Can all of these guys make the jump that they need to for this Arkansas defense to be improved, to be good, to slow down defense, to slow down some really good offenses in the SEC, to slow down Grant Nussmeier, the LSU quarterback, to slow down Austin Simmons, the Ole Miss quarterback, who was a backup last year? Can they slow those guys down? Some really good quarterbacks in the SEC, some really good wide receivers in the SEC. Can they slow them down? Jaheim Singletary is a guy who hopefully can be better this year, former 5-star. Jordan Young will see playing time. Keyshawn Davila, as I mentioned, the number 1 JUCO defensive back. Caleb Wooden played at Auburn last year. You got some guys on this team. When you put them all together, what I like is I like the safeties. I like Larry Worth. I like Miguel Mitchell. He was injured at the first part of the year. Then he got healthy, and there was a difference when he played. So can he bring that deep difference and make the defense really good this season? Can he do that? I like the safeties. The cornerbacks I sort of like, but there's still a lot of unknowns. A lot of transfer guys coming in at cornerback this season for Arkansas. So it's some unexpected. It's some unknowns. I'm going to give the grade a B-. I'm confident in the defensive backs. It's similar to the wide receivers unit where there's a lot of them, and wide receivers group I was confident in, even though I don't know much about these new guys. And I feel like I'm the same with the defensive backs. I'm still relatively confident. That doesn't mean they'll all play together and have a great defense. I actually think the defense is going to be average this year, but hopefully average will be better than last year. So that's a defensive back. That's all of the defense, actually. And our final one before we kind of get to the end of the show is actually special teams, because, special teams are special. So let's go through those real quickly before we wrap up our show. Punter Devin Bale, he ranked top 20 in punt average last season. The kicker, Scott Starzik, he's going to be good. He could be to the level of a Cam Little from a couple seasons ago. He was the number 1 kicker in the nation, recruited out of high school. So he's a true freshman. Can he handle the pressure as a true freshman, as an 18, 19-year-old, to kick kicks in the SEC? When you head to Neyland Stadium and you have the game on the line, can you make a 45-yard kick with the 14 miles an hour wind blowing? That's probably a little bit much. But can he do those things in those pressure moments? He's a really good kicker. Can he do that in the pressure moments? That's Scott Starzik. You got the long snapper, Ashton No, returning from last year. Kick returner, Rodney Hill, returning from last year, who was okay. Punt returner, Cam Shanks. Cam Shanks last year at UAB led the nation in punt return yards, punt return yard like average, and punt return touchdowns, only 2. But he led the nation in those categories, and he's a quick, small guy. So can he make the decisions that he needs to make? And I like the special teams unit. I would give a B+ to the special teams. So that is the comprehensive Arkansas football preview: offense, defense, and special teams. Now, what am I going to talk about on next week's show? That's a great question. Well, actually, I want you guys to help me figure out what to talk about. Now, I have no shortage of things to talk about, but I want this to be an opportunity for you guys to ask me any questions. So there's the email, nluttrell@thv11.com. Send me an email and let me hear your questions, and then I will answer them on next week's show. What do you want to know about this year's team? What are some things I haven't talked about? Or maybe you want to hear more about UCA's team, or UAPB, or Arkansas State. Let me know, and I will answer them on next week's show. For this week's show, that's going to do it. It's been another fun episode of Luttie's Look Back, talking about some headlines of the week, talking a lot of football. Remember, folks, this upcoming weekend, no football. But the weekend after that, we're going to have football. So we got one more preview show of getting you ready for Arkansas football. Then the weekend after that, we're going to be recapping everything. I'm excited. I'm ready for it. It's going to be a lot of fun this fall covering some Arkansas football. That's going to do it for Luttie's Look Back. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you same time, same place next week.